Dear students, today we will learn more about Ursa Major. So, what is the speciality of Ursa Major? It is also called Big Bear in the sky, right? So, do you feel any difference between the normal bear and the Ursa Major, Big Bear? Any difference you can see? Yes, it has a very long tail, right? So there is a myth linked with the Ursa Major that that will account for the long tail of the Ursa Major. So the myth is like this: uh, Greek myth. That is, there was a nymph Callisto who was a servant of hunter Artemis, and she was made to bear a child by Zeus. Artemis, hearing this, banished Callisto for impurity. Callisto gave birth to a child named Arcas. This made Zeus' wife Hera very jealous, and in revenge, Hera turned Callisto into a bear, which ran away into the forest. Arcas grew up to become a hunter. One day, while he was hunting, the bear Callisto heard Arcas' voice, and she was rushing to greet her son. Arcas, without knowing the bear was his mother, was about to kill her when Zeus intervened then and sent both the mother and son into the sky as the greater and lesser bears. The way Zeus got the bears into the sky explains why their tails are so long. Apparently, Zeus grabbed them by their tails and swung them around over his head and finally flung them into the sky. And that is why these two bears have long tails. So, this is a Greek myth associated with Ursa Major. So many such myths are associated just to have, just to give the farmers an idea about, or to get a memory of those constellation, infinite number of constellations in the sky. So coming about our syllabus, so Ursa Major is considered to be the third largest constellation in the sky. Which is the biggest one? Hydra, and then Virgo, and third one is Ursa Major. And it lies in the northern sky. Every time you can see Ursa Major in the northern sky. And it is also called Great Bear, Larger Bear, or Big Bear, and so and so. So more than the Ursa Major, what is actually visible is the seven-star system, a subset of stars in the entire constellation is more visible than the entire constellation. And such a subset is called, we have studied it. What is it? Yeah, it is asterism. So Ursa Major has an asterism which is called Big Dipper, which is made up of 7 stars which are more brighter and forms the tail of the bear. Okay, and starting from the tail, it is Eta Ursa Majoris, also called Alkid. Then Zeta Ursa Majoris, also called Miser. And then Epsilon Ursa Majoris, also called Elliot. Then Delta Ursa Majoris, Gamma Ursa Majoris, Beta Ursa Majoris, and Alpha Ursa Majoris Dubhe, also called Dubhe. So which one among these is the brightest one? Yeah, it is clear from the scientific naming itself. Which one will be the first Greek word, Greek alphabet? That will be the brightest, right? So which one will be the brightest? Which one? Yeah, Alpha Ursa Majoris or Dubhe. Dubhe will be the brightest star, and similarly the second brightest will be Merak, Beta Ursa Majoris. Okay, so these are the 7 stars, and it is very easy to remember: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, and Eta, which forms the Big Dipper. And another thing we have seen is that the star Miser, here you can see Miser, it has a very faint companion named Alcor, which is very close to it, which is visible to anyone with a very good eyesight. So, in ancient time, Miser and Alcor were very close, even closer together, and they were used as a test of keen eyesight for the Arab soldiers. So the soldiers will be asked to look at the Miser and will have to draw them to show to verify his eyesight. So it is actually a double star system made up of Miser and Alcor as a double star system that can be seen even without a telescope. That is, even with a very good eyesight, you can see these two stars separately. So as we have mentioned, we have the 7 stars forming the asterism in the Ursa Major, and asterism is named Big Dipper. And another speciality of Ursa Major is that the first 2 stars, that is Dubhe and Merak, points to the North Pole star. Okay, so it is very easy to identify this dipper shape. It would be inverted, and it is very easy to identify Big Dipper, and using the by tracking these 2 stars, we can point to the exactly to the North Pole star. Otherwise, for us, every other star is shining at us, isn't it? So it is very difficult to recognize which is North Pole star. And you know, North Pole star is what used for navigation in ancient time. So they spot Polaris or North Pole star by or making use of Dubhe and Merak as pointer stars, and hence the name pointer stars. So it could be asked, which are the pointer stars and why are they called so? Okay. So the video on Ursa Major, you have already watched it. So these are the fundamentals about Ursa Major you need to remember. So that is the second constellation we have studied. And the last constellation we'll be studying is Crux. So Crux, from the name itself, Crux shaped, cross shaped asterism is present in the Crux constellation, and hence the name Crux. So 4 bright stars make up the shape of a cross, starting with alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Okay, this is just an asterism in Crux. The Crux is actually formed of many stars, but what is more visible is these 4 stars making a cross shape. So those stars are called asterism in Crux. Cross shaped asterism in Crux. Okay. So this alpha Crucis is also called Ecrus. Beta Crucis is also called Mimosa. Gamma Crucis is also called as Gamma Crucis itself. Then you have Delta Crucis. Okay. So Crux is also called Southern Cross. So it is based on this the navigation was done or easier in the southern hemisphere. From the southern hemisphere, we cannot see the North Pole star because it is closer to the North Pole side. So whatever be closer to the South Pole will be visible in the southern hemisphere. So this constellation was used for navigation. And another specialty is that it is a southern circumpolar constellation. Okay, southern means it is present in the southern sky. Circumpolar means it will be seems to circling around the pole. Throughout the year, we can see Crux constellation in the south direction, and it will be just rotating about its position. Okay, While some of the stars you would have seen, it will be like a sun itself. It will be rising in the east and setting in the west. And for the night period, it won't be visible, isn't it? So similarly, there are some stars which are visible only for a particular period, and after that, it won't be visible in the remaining part of the day. Okay. So those are called equatorial constellation. We'll be studying it later. So here you just have to remember that every time you can watch Crux in the southern sky, it will be just circumventing the pole, south pole, and hence it is called southern circumpolar constellation. Similarly, Ursa Major is also a circumpolar constellation, but it is in the north. So it is called northern circumpolar constellation. Okay, so is that clear? Then another specialty of Crux is that it is the smallest constellation and it has a cross asterism which is formed out of four stars, a Crux which is Alpha Crucis, then Beta Crucis also called Mimosa, third one is Gamma Crucis, and last one is Delta Crucis. Okay, so as we have mentioned above, rotate this constellation will be rotating around the imaginary south pole, south celestial pole, in a clockwise direction. It will be seems to be present all throughout the day, all throughout the night, all throughout the seasons. Okay, every year, every time of the year you can watch Crux. Similarly, Ursa Major also. And another specialty is that around Kappa, there is a fainter star Kappa Crucis. Around that, there is a open cluster called jewel box cluster with group of sparkling stars. So for us, it will be like a casket of jewels because it consists of lots of shining stars, sparkling stars, and hence and that belongs to open cluster jewel box cluster. So you can identify this cluster by just plotting the cross asterism or the Crux constellation. Okay, thank you. So that ends up the constellation. So far we have studied three constellations: Orion, Ursa Major, and Crux. Orion is an equatorial constellation. Ursa Major and Crux is an circumpolar constellation. So we'll be discussing about this classification later. For the time being, let us stop here. Thank you.